Hello gamers, it's SoftKitty99 and today we're in Parkitect. In the last episode of the campaign we completed the initial game campaign with Haunted Island. But a new expansion's come out and now you've got this change map icon in the top of your screen. So if you click on this and you've bought the new expansion, then you can see that the new campaign scenarios are all on their own individual little islands. And I've only done the very first one so far, so we're now in Parkitect's Taste of Adventure expansion. And the first campaign scenario in the new expansion is this one, Yucatan Ridge. You've somehow managed to purchase some historical Mayan temple grounds to construct a crowd-pleasing theme park. The local government remains adamant that the temple ruins may not be destroyed or terraformed in any way. But they didn't say anything about building rides all over them. Scenario: have an operating profit of at least $2,000. Optional: sell at least 500 park tickets. Optional: complete all goals without using any tracked ride blueprints, and that does include things that you've blueprinted of your own rides. You can't use any blueprints at all if you want to get the gold medal. And the final one: optional, complete all non-optional goals by the end of August year 2. Now, you can't do any terraforming because it says you can't terraform, so you can't do any terraforming at all. So the terrain that you're given is the terrain that you have to work with. You can't change a single thing. You can't move any of the ground up or down. You can't remove any of the ruins. It's all the way it is. Look, rocket ship. Oh, no, it's not going to... Oh, right, the rocket ship doesn't appear to be... Oh, is it? Yes, the rocket ship will chase us just like the plane will on the other one. I rather like the rocket ship, don't you? I think it's kind of cool. So, let us load the park as we saved it here. Yucatan Ridge. And as you can see, I completed it in May year 4, which is well past the time that you needed to complete it in order to get the gold medal. It's like twice the amount of time that they're giving you to complete it. So to get the gold medals this time is really difficult because you can't use blueprints and you can't terraform and you can't use blueprints for your coasters. So that means you actually have to physically build everything. And one of the coasters that I built, I had to change it like 4 or 5 times before people would even consider riding it, which was pretty bad, to be honest. I really didn't do very well with the coaster, so this leads me to the fact that I really need to practice a lot more. So as you can see, here's the map. So your people come in from this side here, so this is the entrance building that you start with, and of course that's where you receive your goods as well. There's a temple ruins outside of your park area here and here. These are the complete ones, so you can see why they've allowed us to build on the rest of the space, because the 2 complete ruins are outside of where we've been allowed to build, and all we've got left is basically the very bottom base level of a couple of pyramids. Is it 3, maybe 4 pyramids to build on? So you can see the area that we've actually got to build is quite small because I've built right up to the edge. So here's where they come in, and if you watch, this is where the edge of the space for the park is, right here, right in front of here, right round the edge here. As you can see, I've gone right up to the very edge. Even the supports here are outside of what I'm supposed to have as space, and this is the edge right here. It snakes around. As you can see, I've really used every last little bit of space that I've got here, and then just around the edge of the coaster here. So as you can see, I've used every last little inch of space all the way around to the edges. So let me give you a closer look, but the first thing I want to point out is this coaster here. It's a hyper coaster, and this coaster I built like 4 times, and nobody would ride it because it said super extreme, and the G-forces were so high that I think it would probably have killed somebody the first time. So I then deleted it and tried again, and it was still too extreme, so I removed sections of it, and then it was still too extreme, so I then edited it again and again, and finally we've ended up with this, which I don't think looks like a terribly great coaster, but at least we've got a few people riding it now, and it's still not great, I don't think. Anyway, let me show you the rest. The other coaster I managed to build over here, I'm quite happy with this one. This one worked out quite well, so I definitely need to practice more. Right, so let's zoom into the entranceway as we start. In fact, let's show you the pre-built pyramid. So this is the parts for this are now one of the things that you can get if you just the adventure map pieces. So if I turn all the rest off, so we just leave the new adventure pieces on, and then we come down to buildings. See here, these are all the pieces that they've built these pyramids out of. There's the steps and everything. So this is what they've used to build most of these pyramids out of. And it actually looks really like a Mayan or Aztec temple, doesn't it? I'm never quite sure which one's Mayan and which one's Aztec, though there are a lot of similarities between the two types of pyramids that they build. And this, in game, really reminds me of both of them, actually. So, really cool. So, if people are here for a holiday, they can come and visit the ruins, and then they can go inside the park as well. So here's the entrance place here. If we drop the scenery, you can see this is the goods arrival depot here. So right next to this I've added some toilets to utilise every last little bit of space, put a few seats in to make a little tiny plaza here because we haven't got that much space, and then you see a ride straight in front of you. We've got the info tucked away right here, souvenir umbrellas here. Closest we've got to souvenirs when we started the game was the umbrellas, and then we've got sort of little food court, so we've got fruit juices, sub sandwiches and popcorn, because these were the 4 shops that they basically gave us right at the very beginning. So I've put all 4 of these in right away, and this is basically the only little bit of flat land right at the entranceway, so I've stuck in the toilets and all the shops and the info kiosk right next to this, and the staff have just got access coming out in this direction behind the umbrella shop. And I've stuck in a staff room right next to the end of the shops right here. And yeah, we've quite crammed, so really do not have much space for thinking about where things are here. And I've used the new sort of Aztec-y, Mayan, ethnic, I'm not quite sure how to describe it, sort of South American terracotta patterns. You'd see this in South America and even places in Spain, some of the islands. So it's that kind of generic sort of Spanish-inspired hacienda, terracotta, earthen wall style of decorating. And I really like these pieces. I think this pack of pieces is really, really cool. This little bit of veranda here was on the building that we started with, so I've just kind of expanded that style of decor into the roofing structure for this and out here as well, so it all kind of blends in with what we started with in the game. Seats all the way along here, and then of course we're coming upwards, so I've used a double wide path to start with to try and make it a lot easier for people to get in and out. And then first up we've got a double Ferris wheel, if I can click on the right thing, not one of our people. So we started with a double Ferris wheel, and as you can see I've picked up these terracotta-y colours from these pieces right here where we've got our shops, and I've used those on all of the rides going throughout the building. And again, over where the toilets are, I've used one of the other styles of pieces here. Again, it's this sort of terracotta hacienda style, but this one's got little cutouts in the side of the top of the panel. So we've used a different wall panel to the one we've used on the shops to use on the toilets here. And I've also used the third type of wall here along the side of where the rides are to hide the gap underneath, so the support structures don't show, and it makes it look like the ride is built on a very stable platform. And we've used some of the little pavilions in the same sort of colours as sunshades because it's quite bright and sunny in this area. So you come in here, we've got the aeroplanes as the first children's ride that you come to in the park, and then we've got mat boards everywhere, and then of course you come up the steps here to the double Ferris wheel. And if you come a little bit further across here, you've got the exit here for the wipeout, and the entrance is here to the wipeout with your little queue, so you go in there and come back out here into this little plaza. And then if you keep coming further along here, you've got the steps up and out for the twister, which again is right at the edge of our park, and the twister is right next to that second pyramid right here, look. So if I rotate that around a bit, you can see that this is double steps up the front of this pyramid, so quite a nice sort of style around here. And then we've got some of the new trees, look here, around the park. So the new trees. So in the plants section, so you've got some of the new trees here. So these are the new trees in the adventure pack. Look, you've got banana leaves, bromeliad, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, and we've got some of those over here. If we zoom a little bit further in, these are those bromeliad plants there, look. This one here is this monstera plant, and this of course is the monstera palm, and I've used these in this decoration. And then here we've got the spiky yucca plant right here in between them. I've got some banana leaves somewhere in the park. You will see them before we finish. Can I find a few here? So we've used a lot of these plants. Oh, the vines. We did use some of the vines right near the entranceway. If I come back to where we've got the toilets here, look, we've got some of the vines running up the side of the little veranda thing. The veranda was already here where we started. Oh, we need a cleaner. Somebody's not doing too well. Taking a break, taking a break. Oh gosh, there's a lot of people taking breaks, are they? Okay, can you come and clean this, please? Thank you. Don't like that. Right, so let's head back to where we were. Allowing myself to get sidetracked by all the new foliage. I do like these new foliage pieces. I've used them all in the standard colours. I haven't changed them. Oh look, here's some of the banana leaves, I think, in here. Or is that it? Definitely use them somewhere. Oh, there's the banana leaves, look, just here. And these are the red flowers that you can see in that new pack. So I've used all of the new foliage as decoration around here. So let me come back to where we were, here with the twister. That was what we were talking about. We came past the twister here, up the steps right here. Let me show you that. So they come up here and into this little, very simple sort of queue building here that I've added up. And then if you come that little bit further along, you come to the first of our coasters. Let's follow that round. That's the stand-up coaster, this one. Oops, and now I've gone on. Sorry, it's the stand-up coaster that I've used here. This is one of the new coasters, I think, for the adventure pack. And as you can see, what I've done is I've used lots of the new foliage, and I've built like where there's a tunnel, because you can't change the terrain, where there's a tunnel for where my coaster's going to try and get back to the station, because I had a lot of trouble getting it back to the station. So where it goes under a tunnel, what I've done is I've kind of mocked up a fake pyramid, but there are lots of constraints for it, because you can just see the edge of the tunnel there poking out the corner. So the tunnel is actually dictated where I needed a structure. So I've done the best that I could with the pieces to try and make it look a bit like one of the pyramids. So let's follow the coaster around, because this is the first successful build I think I've had with an actual coaster that I built for myself. So up the lift hill, and I've tried to make it as small as I possibly could, and there's quite an intense starting drop there, straight into a loop. So I've got everybody squealing and screaming. Upside down you go, twisty, and then down into the tunnel, and then back round to the station. And that actually turned out quite well, because the people seem to quite like that. So if we come back here, you're going to be interested in my, where's the stats? So my excitement ended up being very high. I'm not surprised by the beginning of that ride. It's at 74.1, very high. Intensity, very high, 99.4. Perhaps a little bit too high for a lot of people, but the nausea is only 19.5, which is low, and they love my decoration. So I'm extremely pleased with that personally. I absolutely love what I've got, and I'm really proud of it myself. So big drop, loop, upside down you go, back round and through your tunnel, and then back all the way around here to the exit. I'm really pleased with that. As you can tell, I'm really proud of that one, and I built that one first, and then, as I said, the second coaster I tried to build just didn't go well at all. Another toilet dropped in here, and then through the little jungle that we've built of our own right, using the very last bits of edges. I did build this myself as well. It's the new safari ride. So that is a ride that you build with the cars to just go around to do whatever you could. I'm sure I could have done more perhaps with the scenery. Could have put some little buildings into it and stuff, but I utilised the terrain because you see there's quite a drop off here. So we've got the car going down and round so it can interact with the foliage and then with the upright coaster, and then it goes up again, meanders its way back up, quite tall up here so you can overlook everything else, and then back round on the higher piece of ground here, then another little rise here so that you can see some of the other rides further along, and then back to where we started. So I'm quite pleased with the utilisation of space. I could perhaps have done more with this space. I could perhaps have added a couple more rides in here in between some of the loops if I'd have thought it through a little bit more when I was building it, but I was actually hoping that the scenario would end a lot sooner than it did. So I built this fairly early on in the scenario itself, and then realised that I was actually running out of space, and I hadn't really left myself much space to be able to get across here. So I was just thinking, how am I going to get across here to put in some extra rides, and I've managed to finish the scenario, which made me really, really happy. So that's what the entrance to the car ride is here, and the exit right next to it. Again, we've used some of the pavilions as sunshade, and then right opposite it on that higher piece of ground like we've got over here, we've got a go-kart track. Again, this is one that I built myself. So the queue goes in over here and you exit over here. Let me spin you around so you can see this better. So you go in here and you come back out here. So all the go-karts start right here. And then the ride goes into a little pyramid building. This is again a tunnel, so I've built using this pyramid structure over the top. Sadly I can't remove this little bit of curb here, but it doesn't seem to affect the ride, so we'll just have to ignore that, okay. So we've built the pyramid structure again. See, this is part of the ruin, and it goes all the way around as a square into where we've got our tunnel, but it was quite happy for me to build on top of it, so that worked out quite nicely for me. So the ride comes around underneath, does a few curlies underneath in the tunnels, and then we've got a long stretch. As you can see, there isn't much space or anything else, so we go up and down a little bit to give it a little bit more character and keep it a little bit more exciting, and then a couple of hairpin turns right at the end, right back to the start line, and then you head back into your tunnel. So it's quite a simple little track, but I've tried to do as much as I can with the small amount of space that we've got. So the curly bit seems to be more under the hidden structure there, so I've tried to blend it in with the pyramid idea. And then if you come up here past the car ride and the racetrack, you keep coming in this direction, and then you come off to this side here. We have our final ride in this very corner, the orbiter. As you can see, this is right smack up to the edge of the fence, and actually it sticks out. The queue itself sticks out over the top of the car ride, look here. So we really are using every last little speck of space, because this is right up against the fence here, and it's right up against the next ride, the Star Shaper, which is, as you can see, right up against the fence, right along the back, all the way along here, right up against that, and it's raised up a little bit, you can see. And the entrance to that is all the way along the front of this little raised pyramid. Again, another toilet, a little bit of decorating, and here you've got the entrances here. First to the Star Shaper up in this direction with the exit right here, and then in this direction you've got the entrance along here for the topple tower, and then the exit right here. So again, right up in the very corner of our space right at the back here. Not so many people on that one. I don't know if that's because it's such a long walk to the back of the park. Or 669 guests, so we've got quite a few people in the park. And there's the Star Shaper twisted upside down. Perhaps these intense rides are a little bit much for some of the guests that we've got in the park at the moment. So that's all the way to the back of the park here. Let me zoom back out so you can see I've got these 3 rides all crammed in right at the very back of the park, right smack up against the fence. See that? The fence is right next to the ride all the way along there, and then here all the way along there to here, and then this one all the way along there to there, and then it sticks out, the queue sticks out over this ride. This one's right up to the edge of the fence over here again. And then we've got the little coaster. Now this is the coaster that gave me all the trouble. It really did. It really did. But we have got a few people in it now. So this is the hyper coaster. And let's zoom in a little bit so we can follow that round. So that's the hyper coaster. And let's follow it. So coming out of the station, it goes up the big drop. It's still a little extreme for a lot of people, this ride, but I did finally manage to twiddle it enough to get people on it. So quite a lot of curves in it, and then the spiral, and then back to the start. Now that, I know, to me that doesn't look like a very intense ride. That to me looks quite peaceful, not too bad. It was much more intense looking when we first started, but they really didn't like it. But see, it still says that it's extreme 78.5, an intensity of 85.5, and nauseous low, which is good, but these ratings are still really high, even though I've toned the ride down many times. So I think I need some tips on building coasters, because I'm not very good. I am actually tempted to go looking on the Steam Workshop to try and get some more blueprints from other people, but of course with this terrain, if you did use blueprints, you would have really struggled, because look how high this comes. If you come back over here to where the twister is, not the twister, the wipeout. So you come in the park here, look, come in here, come along here, past the aeroplanes, past the wipeout, and if you keep coming up this way, you've got another set of shops here. Let me show you which shops we've got in here. We've got the sub sandwiches again, and the fruit juices, and this time we've got shirts, because we managed to learn a few more shops, so we've got some shirts in there as well. And that is opposite the coaster basically, and behind the second coaster. Let's put that back on. But at the side of the shops here, you've got a path going up this way, where we've got a gyro drop tower, but look how steep this terrain is up to the front of where there would have been a pyramid originally. We've just got this lower part of the pyramid here, and on top of that I've put an Enterprise, because it's such a big flat platform. But even so, it's the Enterprise, being such a big ride, barely fits into the space on top of the pyramid, and with just one row in front of it where we could put a queue, look, and then but look how tall this is. See the problem with the terrain here for this coaster, I tried to utilise the terrain, but I ended up then with it being so intense that it was just too intense for anybody to want to ride it. So I've edited it so many times that now I feel it's a really weird ride now. But I just kept editing it in the hope that it would work. And again, you can see I've used the terracotta style pyramid blocks in order to make the little building for the entrance to our coaster, and the ride comes along behind where we've got our shops, and it's quite a steep way up into the station here. But of course that gave us a little bit more play for being able to play with the tracks for the coaster. But as I said, I've had to edit it loads of times. I'm really glad I didn't do you a play-by-play and build it in real time, because that would have really annoyed everybody, because it just took me so long to fiddle it around to even get anybody on it. So coming up the pyramid, I've dropped some toilets in part way up, and then next to the aeroplanes we've got a little pathway. As you can see, this ride is over the top of where the pathway is, going along here to get to the spiral slide, which again, as you can see, is right up against the edge of the fence. It's got quite a short queue, but I don't think it's that popular of a ride, so the short queue I don't think is a problem here, but we're using a little bit of space here. As you can see, it's not flat terrain, but it's flat on the terrain at the very top here, and then is over the top of where we've got our first set of shops from when you come in the park. But of course you've got to walk a long way around in order to get to this. And then coming up at the side of this, really up high, we've got another little queue line here for the power surge. As you can see, I've actually added this as kind of an afterthought. I had this little queue coming down to the spiral slide, but then I needed an extra ride to finally get my game to push over to completion, so I've added in this power surge up at the back here. I managed to just find enough space to add this ride. As you can see, it's really high up off the ground, but that was the only way I could get it to fit in and make it look not completely stupid. And the queue is right to the very edge of the park, so so is the edge of the ride. Look, we've used every last little tiny bit of space here, look, to add this in. And as you can see how much the terrain changes, because that's a really short support, and look how long these ones are. this terrain is going to be a big problem for most people, I think, in trying to finish up this scenario. And of course it's so compact. In front of that we've got the transformer, which of course you can't get access to from this side because that was added earlier. So if I were to replay this park, I would have given it an awful lot more thought about where to put paths, I think, because I've used every last little bit of space. So if you come back to the pyramid, coming up the pyramid where we had the toilet, you come all the way up to the top for the orbiter, and along the front of where you've got the orbiter, you've got the paths for the other rides here. So right at the top in front of the orbiter, you've got the inverted double swing. And there it goes. Let me just show you that as it starts off, and you can see the power surge rising up behind it. Is most of the fun of these things the anticipation itself rather than the being tipped upside down? Is it where it starts to power up and you're anticipating what's going to happen to you, or is it once you start to spin? I'm not sure, and I think different people are going to think different things, aren't they? And there they go, they're upside down there, and is it going to swing over this time? No, maybe one more. Go on, the double swing, turn them upside down. Are you going? Is this the one? Yes, there they go. There they go. Super. And then just below that, right opposite where the toilet is, this is the entrance to the transformer right there. So it's quite a complicated park, and I feel it's a little bit difficult for me to explain it all to you. So if I zoom back out a little bit, you can see the way we come up. So you come up past the drop tower, and then you've got the path along there to the spiral slide and the power surge at the back. And if you come all the way back down that path and then go a little bit further up, you've got toilets and the transformer. And if you come back to the toilet and go a little bit further up, you've got the orbiter straight in front of you, and to the side you've got the inverted double swing. And as you can see, I've used every last little bit of space. We might have been able to add something small here, but because of the steep incline, I was finding it really difficult to think of what could possibly fit in that space. And then perhaps we could have come underneath this coaster and maybe added something else, but I think it would be really difficult to find the space to add anything else to this park. So that is the park that I have built for the Yucatan Ridge scenario for the new expansion. Hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. From Suffocating99, goodbye and happy gaming!